Well, guys, the moment of truth. Something we've been waiting for 2 years, a little over 2 years actually, and we're hopeful that this does not end in disappointment. These are LBC packages from the U.S. Embassy, and Jen is trying to figure out how to open it. Uh-oh. What is that? Well, that's your passport.
Oh my god!
Whoa! U.S. Visa.
This is it, guys.
Permanent resident.
Wow.
That's so cool. Hey guys, good evening. Rick Baker here. Thought I'd give you a little update. Actually, this is part 2 of our Immigrant Visa vlog that we did, 3 or 4 days ago, I guess. I told you that that vlog took about not quite 2 years to get through to that portion that I left off on in that vlog, and so I'm going to pick up where I left off there and kind of tell you how it all ended. My wife's going to join me here shortly because I'm going to ask her some questions about her experience both at St. Luke's Medical, the medical screening that her and Genesis had to go through, as well as the actual embassy interview. So you'll get to hear from her about some of the things that she was asked, some of the things that she had to do, that type of thing. So you kind of have an idea when you go for yours what to expect. So where I left off was a friend of ours, Sharina Wheelock, telling us that we can check this SEAC website periodically to see what the status was at the embassy, and so we did that. And the first 2 or 3 to 4 days that we checked, I don't remember what the status, what it said. I think it said pending, but I'm not. Don't quote me on that. Bottom line is it wasn't ready at that time. But the very next day, after checking it maybe 2 or 3 days in a row, we checked it one more time, and it was ready. So at that point, that was February the 25th. We went ahead and secured an appointment on the CGI Federal website. So another website to have to visit. And here's Mrs. Baker.
Hi.
So CGI website, we went ahead and secured the interview for her and for Genesis at the embassy. On March 3rd, we went ahead and after you get your appointment at the embassy, then you go ahead and work on getting an appointment with St. Luke's Medical. That's the only place that you're able to go and get that I know of, that you're able to go and get the embassy's medical exam that's required for this visa. So we secured that on March the 3rd, and that's at St. Luke's. St. Luke's has a website that you actually go and you secure that appointment. On March the 6th, we finally received that email from the embassy saying that
we are ready.
That we could now go ahead and secure our appointment with the embassy. But looks like we were about 9 days ahead of that by checking the CGI.
Thanks to Charina.
Yeah, thanks, Charina. By checking the CGI website. So we beat that by about 9 days. I'm checking my notes here, guys, because there's dates and things. I don't want to miss anything and make sure I get the right order. So March 20th. So the 19th and 20th actually was the date of her and Genesis physical. The first day was in the afternoon, so we drove down to Manila that morning. We got there, I think, at 1 o'clock? Yeah, 1 o'clock. And they started their physical. You want to talk a little bit about that day, that first day, what y'all had to do?
The first part was they took us a photo.
Okay, biometrics. Yeah, there was some biometrics involved.
And then I think payment.
Yeah, always payment first. Got to do that. Were any vaccines that day? Was it the day of vaccines?
No. It's the second day. It's on the second day.
But they evaluated your vaccine records on that day, I think, for the second day. Yeah, so you're going to do some things. That's just how her appointment was. The first day was in the afternoon. Also, there was an X-ray involved. Genesis had a. What did Genesis have to do?
Even for me, I had X-ray, but they had to put something on my belly to protect the baby.
Oh, secret's out. We're pregnant. We're 3 months pregnant, and yeah, she was supposed to have an X-ray for TB test, and Genesis had to have a test as well for TB, and they had to protect the baby from that X-ray. So yeah, that was the first day. So obviously, you know, that means there's a day 2. So we had to secure a hotel, which we ended up staying at City Gardens.
Yeah. City
Gardens, which was literally a block away from St. Luke's Medical. What's that area called?
I forgot.
It's not.
I think it's Padre Fora.
Padre Fora. It's not far from the embassy. I mean, the embassy's like a 10-minute walk.
It's in Mabini.
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 Okay, there you go. Straight from my wife's mouth. Mabini. Anyway, very convenient to St. Luke's. Very nice hotel. Had a great breakfast buffet in the morning. The only downside was there was literally no parking. They had like 5 spots for cars. So, you know, your vehicle's out on the road. Now, if you take public transport to get there, you have a problem. But yeah, that part I didn't like. Everything else about it, the staff, the hotel, it was nice. Yeah, it was nice. And not the best area, kind of rough. But convenience-wise, we just walked to St. Luke's from there. The second day, we had to be early, right?
Yes.
What time did we get there second day?
7 a.m.
Yeah, 7 a.m. Her and Genesis had to be there, and it was an all-day. It was an all-day thing.
Yeah.
They had shots. What else did you have?
It's all vaccines.
All vaccines. Then nothing else on that day?
Nothing else. We waited for the result.
Okay. So bottom line is, when she finished, she made sure to ask several times, do I need to come back? Because we'd heard you have to come back at a later date to pick up your medical packet. But they told her no. They gave her an electronic medical certificate?
Yeah, e-medical.
E-medical for her and Genesis, and advised her to make several copies of it. So we have that, but we never had to go back up and pick up anything. They sent everything to the embassy from there that the embassy needed. Was there anything else unusual that that people need to know or remember about that experience?
Have you told them already about when you are pregnant, to make sure you bring your medical certificate, because it's very important, and it's not written anywhere on their website in the list of requirements.
Yeah, and it does matter, because if you are pregnant, then there are some vaccines that you don't need to get.
Yes. And the X-ray, of course.
Yeah. So, yeah, good advice. So if you're pregnant when you go for that exam, make sure you do bring something official showing that you're pregnant. Anyway, so that we were there really late the next day, probably 5-6 o'clock in the evening, before we got to head back to Cuyapa. But it was done. So fast forward, March 27th, a week later, was their appointment at the U.S. Embassy. Their appointment was at 6 o'clock in the morning. It was really early. We went ahead and secured City Garden again the night before, because it was so early. It's a 3-hour drive for us to the embassy from Cuyapa, and that's using toll roads all the way and Skyway. It's still 3 hours, so we didn't want to, we wanted them to be rested and ready for that interview. So we went in and stayed the night before City Garden again. Loved the hotel. Hate the parking situation. Got up the next morning. We walked from the hotel, a 10-minute walk to the embassy. Already a long line, but she got to walk right up because we had an interview. And she went in. By 6:15, she was in the door. And at what point, how much longer before they actually called you for the interview, or what was the process involved in that?
first step, they're going to check all the requirements and then do some picture taking and biometrics, and then the last part, that's the interview part.
Yeah, so they get all the administrative stuff out of the way, I guess, to make sure that you're ready for your interviews. Your last thing. I will say this: they do have a list of requirements, of course, on the website and in the paperwork that they give you when you do sign up for your appointment. And then there's like an auxiliary list, and there's a lot of stuff on it. And I told you about the NVC, that their job was to make sure that they get all the documents that the immigration officer needs to be able to make a decision on your case. That's the NVC's job, is to make sure they get all that uploaded before it ever goes to the embassy. And I told you that wasn't exactly true. Well, it wasn't. I mean, we were literally uploading documents the night before the interview that we found on this additional list of things that they want at the embassy. It did not come through MVC. So it's kind of hectic, and it's really kind of stressful, to be honest, because you don't want to get all the way there, go through all of that, the expense, the travel, just to be told, sorry, you don't have this, and this.
Yeah.
So they went through that, and I can remember her coming out at one point kind of in a panic, because there was some things that didn't show up that I knew I had uploaded. I knew I'd hit the submit button, and I even saw it myself. It showed submitted. I can't remember what that document was. One for you and Genesis both.
One of the officers, it's a Filipino. We were on the process of checking all the requirements, and then he kept insisting that our marriage contract was not uploaded yet. But I was certain we did that. We double-checked that, right?
That was the PSA.
Yeah, but just to how to say that, just to satisfy him, I still went outside and then checked on my phone, and sure enough, it was really submitted. So I went back and I told him, sir, it's really submitted.
Well, the thing is, you can't take your cell phone in there, so you can't show them the proof.
Yes.
Anyway, bottom line, she kind of got past that step, and then she went to the interview. So, do you remember any of the questions that the interviewer asked you that day, or Genesis?
Yeah, actually, that was the final stage. That's when we waited the longest, and the questions were, of course, how did we meet? When did we begin dating? And
don't. She's look at her poking me
did you
like I
have
was
any
there.
relationships before me? Was I married before? Do we have kids? Have I traveled outside the country before? And I said yes, I did. And
which, I'm sorry. There's some questions that just, bottom line is, we've been married for, at this point, over 2 years.
Yeah.
And some of the questions they ask have absolutely nothing to do with immigrating to the United States. What other countries have you been to? Who cares if she's been to Hong Kong or Singapore or Bali? None of that matters. But, they just, how, I'm not going to go off on a rant on this. But bottom line is, when she and Genesis came out, she was shaking her head no. And this was in the afternoon. We'd been there all morning, well past lunch, into the afternoon. She came out shaking her head no. And I was devastated.
Well, just to clarify, it's refused.
Yeah, she got refused.
They call it under 221G. Like they needed more documents.
So here's what they needed.
Okay.
Right? We had it, except MVC did not ask me for a copy of they asked me for a copy of my first marriage 30 years ago with the divorce papers. But they didn't ask me for my divorce from 7-8 years ago. So I never uploaded it. But just to be on the safe side, no, I take it back. I did upload it the night before her interview. I uploaded it just in case, because even though MVC didn't ask it, I kind of thought maybe the embassy might. So we uploaded it, and I gave her the copy. The interviewer wanted I wanted to see the certified copy of that divorce decree of my second marriage. And I had it in my folder at home, but I also had just a regular copy, and I guess I grabbed the copy and stuck it in her folder, so it was not the certified stamped copy, and so he refused her for that. Now, he did keep her and Genesis passports, which was encouraging, because I didn't think he would do that if this was something that was going to take months to fix. He kept their passports, told her to get the certified copy and send it via LBC, which is a courier in the Philippines, to the embassy. So you can imagine, when we got home, that's the very next day, that's exactly what I did. I realized my mistake. I got the certified copy, and we sent it to LBC.
Along with the passport.
Yeah. Oh, he didn't keep them?
Huh?
He didn't keep them, we sent them to him?
Passports and the divorce decree.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I stand corrected. I just told you that he kept them, but she says we sent the hers and Genesis passport and the certified copy of the divorce decree.
Actually, that's the positive side, because you told me they're not gonna ask for the passports if it's gonna take a while. So yeah.
So we felt encouraged. Now, LBC took several days. Their express service, for some reason, wasn't really express that time. Took several days to get to the embassy. We could track it, of course, and then, it very quickly. How long before we got?
April 12. So we sent it on the 28th. That's the day after the interview, and then we got it back on the 12th.
Okay.
April 12.
So there you go, about 2 weeks.
Yeah. Because there was a holiday. It was the Holy Week.
Yeah.
I think.
We actually had seen online that it had been.
So from refused, it finally became ready.
Ready? I don't know. My wife's memory. I'm the old one in this relationship, but my memory is a lot better than hers. Scary.
I think it's.
Let's hope our baby gets my memory, honey, and your looks. Yeah. So, bottom line is, we saw online that it was, it was approved, whatever the word was on the website. CGI Federal again?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we knew it had been approved. It was just a matter of waiting for everything to be returned, which on the 12th of April, she received both their passports with their visa in it. Hallelujah. So the 2-year process had come to an end, and we went ahead and immediately, here's the deal. We're up against a pregnancy clock. So international flights have basically the airlines, they enforce a deadline on when a pregnant woman can fly internationally. And what we were looking at is running into that barrier on the end of coming back to the U.S. So they tell you to wait, to prepare to be in the U.S. for at least 90 days to receive your Social Security card, your green card. Most people we've talked to, it doesn't take that long, but they say to, you plan for the worst. So that's what we did. We bought tickets, round trip, 90 days out. The problem with that is, if we had waited any longer to fly to Texas, and it took that 90 days, and we would have not been able to fly back to the Philippines, because she would have been too far along to be able to do that. Which, that's not a problem. Me staying in Texas longer is never a problem. It's just that I don't have insurance there. So we had to kind of look at, having the baby and the cost involved. All of you know what it costs to have a baby in the U.S., so we had to consider that as well. Bottom line is, we got tickets, and guess where we are? We are in Taipei, Taiwan. We had a 5-hour layover here. Beautiful airport. I've been here many times in layovers on my way to the Philippines. But that's what we're doing. We are on our way. So bottom line is, we're going to be going to Texas at some point, hopefully pretty soon. And Genesis and Jen will get their green cards, their Social Security cards, and then we'll head on back to the Philippines. We plan to go back. I'm retired. All my assets and everything are in the U.S. My domicile's in the U.S. We do have a home here. We have a life here. So we always have intended to go back and forth between the two countries. And yeah, Genesis wants to one day maybe join the Air Force, and the only way for him to be able to do that is either with a green card or being a citizen, which after about 3 years, I believe Jenn and Genesis, if they want citizenship, they can apply for that and become dual citizens, because the Philippines does have dual citizenship, which is a good thing. So that's our plans. We're just excited. It's finally all over. It's been such a long process. I've gotten many comments and stories from folks that some of your experiences are even worse than ours, which, I guess there's always somebody that has a worse scenario. I heard some that were just, when I got through reading what they went through, I was like, well, crap, mine doesn't look all that bad anymore. Anyway, we just wanted to kind of give you a picture of the journey that we went through, and hopefully something we've said or we've shared or we've, hopefully something helps you along the way, and that your process is nowhere near as long as ours was. So, anything you want to say, babe?
I think that's it.
Okay. Well, so yeah, there it is. We'll wrap it up there. You guys have a great evening. The good. The bad. The Philippines.